he picked the wrong family, and not scared of a conflict, and we're not scared. We're not running. We're coming at him.
Hey guys, it's Franky. Welcome to the Think Tank. So I decided to do a live on Jesse McFadden. Every day there's something new coming out about this monster. Right now, I thought maybe we would talk about this list that he had with the victims' names on it, about the clothes that they found underneath the floorboards. And, basically just the stuff that was in that house. Unreal. So we'll go through a couple of articles, and then we'll take a look at another update. So this is the Knights law that they're talking about. They didn't want to put one person's name towards this. They thought it might be nice to have something that would basically stand for everybody.
Over. The crime scene tape came down at the home 24 hours later. It was turned back over to the property owner, only to be turned back into a crime scene over the weekend, with state agents now heading up the investigation. News 4's Kaylee Olivas is following every twist and turn in this case, and she is back in Henrietta this evening.
New in this case, the Oklahoma State Medical Examiner's Office, along with the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, was here at this Henrietta property Monday morning. OSBI did take over this case over the weekend and has been collecting evidence since at least Saturday. One of the victims' families we spoke with says it took far too long for a state agency to get involved, though, that this should have happened the day their daughter died.
I'm upset, healing, trying to heal.
What these parents found was unfathomable. How the law enforcement was able to leave this in the first place. And then after they went through and took whatever it was they took, the family went in and had to call them in for a second time.
Still confused. Still a lot of answers that need to be given.
Not only is this investigation mind-boggling to these families, but McFadden being released early on a first-degree rape and grand larceny sentence is where more confusion lies. Both charges resulted in a total of 28 years, but they ran concurrently, meaning both sentences were being served at the same time.
They should not be allowed back out into the world. There is no rehabilitation for sexual offenders. There's not.
McFadden's court records show he pled guilty to first-degree rape by force and fear of a 16-year-old in 2003. That carries up to life imprisonment, but a Pittsburgh County judge only sentenced him to 20 years. He was released early in 2020 after completing 85% of his sentence. 2.5 years later, he killed 5 kids, his wife of less than a year, and then turned the gun on himself.
If they have the audacity to ruin a child's life forever, doing the things they do, then we should be able to lock them up for life for ruining that child's life.
So he drafted up this petition demanding change in the current law when it comes to a convicted sex offender sentencing and probationary requirements. He's also demanding more funding for law enforcement, so they'll have the resources to put a stop to people like Jesse Mcfadden. He also believes more funding would have allowed for local law enforcement to investigate his daughter's murder more thoroughly. It's called the Knights Law, in honor of the 5 kids who lost their lives in Henrietta.
We have sexual predators still here in Henrietta that are walking around being able to do whatever they want. They're going to school events just as Jesse Mcfadden did. We ask that everybody sign the petition, and we ask that everybody in every other state do the same thing. It's time.
With the clock running out on this year's legislative session, News 4 emailed Henrietta's state leaders about the petition. So far, we've only heard back from Representative Scott Fedgetter. In a statement, his office says, quote, he's planning to file last-minute legislation to better protect the public from convicted sexual perpetrators. Until then, Webster's fight for a safer tomorrow is far from over.
I will fight for her. And I ask that everybody fight for all the victims. And let's make change.
In Henrietta, Keely Olivas,
Oh my word. I just can't imagine anything worse. Hey there, James. Hey, Maxie. Yeah, I agree with you. Oh my God. Just unreal. Unreal. So I like the idea of them doing something for all of the victims, and instead of having something go to one child in particular. This is a nice way to remember them. So he unalived Ivy Webster, 14, Brittany Brewer, 15, Tiffany Guess, 13, Michael Mayo, 15, Riley Allen, 17, and Holly Gass, 35. The Okmulgee police chief said each victim was shot in the head before Mcfadden turned the gun on himself. Why can't they just turn it on themselves and leave it at that? So News 4 has been in contact with the Webster and the Brewer families since the girls' deaths. They're distraught and say it should never have happened because Mcfadden should have still been incarcerated. You see, and that's the thing. How are they giving these people time off for good behavior? Are you kidding me already? And both families are saying that they feel the judicial system did fail them. Well, that is absolutely fair enough. I'm angry. This should never have happened, and it needed to stop, or it needs to stop. Frustrated, I'm upset, healing, trying to heal, still confused. Can you imagine the amount of emotions that would go through a person? I cannot even imagine. So when they went through the house for the first time, it was opened up by law enforcement. So during this walkthrough, the family found restraints with locks and chains still attached, SEX and bondage devices, as well as computers and cell phones left behind from law enforcement. One of the cell phones actually belonged to Justin's daughter, Ivy. Can you imagine finding that? So he immediately called Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office, and an investigator came out to snap photos and collect the evidence. Now, I'm not sure if you guys seen, there's footage of that guy going into the house, and he was basically saying, like, I don't know why you're continuing to do this. And he said, this is my daughter. It blows me away. So the investigators collected 4 phones, 2 computers, DRUG paraphernalia, and a check made out to a local storage unit. The Webster family said they've gone through Mcfadden's home 3 times since their daughter passed away. Justin said they find new potential evidence each time. His last look through on Friday, he said he found more paraphernalia and 5 other cell phones. You see, the thing is what if more than just him were using this house? How do they know there's not evidence on there of other activities? And he just said that he knows of more in that town. What if there is footage or calls, texts, whatever, from different people? I cannot believe that these guys just don't seem like they were given two hoots. When the investigator was questioned by Justin, he told him, "The problem is I don't know what else to do." Oh my God. The investigator continued to tell him the only person who could piece together what happened is no longer alive. I love it when the deer just kind of walk down the sidewalk. Do, 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 do. Okay. So Justin said it's unfair he and his family have to sit on the sidelines while local law enforcement pushes the investigation off to the side. A day after KFOR aired the story on what was found inside Mcfadden's home, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations took the lead on the case. Per an email correspondence between the Webster family attorney, Cameron Spradling, and the Okmulgee County District Attorney's Office Saturday morning, the OSBI had been requested to take the lead. So News 4 visited Mcfadden's home Saturday evening and spotted OSBI agents collecting evidence. There was a U-Haul and an OSBI mobile analysis center. So that would be that there. Spradling told KFOR that OSBI sent divers into the ponds on the property Mcfadden was renting and also dropped sonar radars into the water over the weekend. He said that OSBI had located a disturbance and would send a helicopter out the following week to try and get a bird's eye view of what it could be. Monday morning, the OSBI was still at the property collecting evidence. The state medical examiner's office was also seen. So isn't that interesting? They only usually show up when there's human remains. Now, I have heard, I don't know if we're going to hear of it here, but I have heard that they did find bones. So on Monday morning, OSBI was still at the property collecting evidence, and the medical examiner's office was seen. One of the containers on the property had to be opened. Within an hour of News 4 being there, all agencies left the property and removed the crime scene tape. What? Okay, didn't see that coming. The Webster family feels as if it took way longer than it should have for a state agency to take lead, though. They're now publishing a petition to ensure that this doesn't happen again with future investigations. The Webster family is also demanding changes be made to the current law regarding SEX offenders, sentencing, and probationary term requirements. Yeah, like in my opinion, like they don't get any release. They don't get anything. They don't no rewards for being a good boy when you're locked up in the pen. So we have predators still here in Henrietta that are walking around. See, and these are the ones that concern me as far as what else could have been happening in that house. I heard on one channel, and again, I didn't hear it from law enforcement, but that they were thinking that the wife had to be involved with everything that was in that house. They're saying there was no way that wasn't noticed. So, I mean, I guess that's fair enough because this stuff was not hidden at all. So McFadden pled guilty to first degree by force of a 16-year-old in 2003. In Oklahoma, that crime carries up to life imprisonment, but a Pittsburgh County judge only sentenced him to 20 years. Yeah, give them baby days, boys. That's what they need. Both charges resulted in a total of 28 years in prison, but they ran concurrently, which means both sentences were being served at the same time. So he was released early in 2020 after completing 85% of his sentence. So that was 17 years of incarceration. Didn't take him too long to be back to his sick tricks. There's not enough resources out there for us to identify these sick monsters. While in prison, McFadden was also caught with a cell phone that he was using to send messages to a minor. They should not be allowed back out in the world. There is no rehabilitation for these types of offenders. There's just not. And you know what? I agree. There's just not. So he got out, and 2.5 years later, this happened. Justin said if there's a law in place preventing these offenders from being released back into the world, his daughter would still be alive. Yeah, I would bet that all 6 people would be alive. So they do have this petition started. So the petition is asking that all city police departments and school districts be mandated to identify local offenders in the area by providing a digital or physical list. So the petition pushes for the law to be called Knight's Law in honor of the 5 kids. Yeah, disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Yeah, just what you said, Maxie. Hello there, Brouhaha. Yeah, how the hell are these people getting good behavior? What is that when you've done this type of thing? I don't know. So I found this kind of interesting as well. So dive and excavation teams were spotted at that house. So the property has mysterious, let's see, McFadden's property as mysterious list with victims' names are found. So let's see, what is this all about?
We believe to have found everything that we were seeking this morning. Approximately at 1500 hours, we arrived out here with a search warrant.
That warrant, executed on a rural property there, brought a gruesome discovery.
We've searched the property and we've located 7 bodies that we are in the process of trying to get the ME to be able to confirm identities of these individuals that were found.
They'd been looking for 2 teenage girls, 14-year-old Ivy Webster and 16-year-old Brittany Brewer.
Yeah. Brutal.
I slipped on.
Okay. Questions keep mounting over the investigation of the self-unaliving. Can you imagine unaliving, self-unaliving, unaliving? So questions keep mounting over the investigation at the property of this convicted individual where the 7 bodies were discovered last week. So following the gruesome findings on Jesse McFadden's property on May 1st, dive teams with Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations, OSBI, have been spotted, as we know, and they were looking at some of the ponds out there. The medical examiner and excavation crews were also at the property until Monday evening. I do find that really interesting. The development is especially compelling in light of the revelations by a neighbor of McFadden who told the network last week that they had seen somebody digging in the pond about 6 months ago. When confronted, the individual reportedly said they meant to expand the pond despite there being no apparent reason to do so. So this comes amid reports that a family of the victims found a ledger at the crime scene with a list of unknown names and ages, the last final names being those of the 6 victims. The Independent has reached out to the OSBI for comment on the possibility that McFadden may have been the individual digging in the pond. Well, okay, I want to know about that, but I also want to know what the hell is going on with this list. The Office of the Medical Examiner confirmed last week. Okay, and it tells us about the victims. Before dive teams began a second processing of the scene on Saturday, the 6th of May, authorities left behind a trove of stomach-churning evidence at McFadden's property after releasing the scene just days before the bodies were found. Come again? While touring the residence with the owner's authorization, a crew of reporters found hand restraints. Sorry, guys, I'm stripping. I'm stripping. I'm tripping over my lack of teeth. I'm stripping. So, yeah, these adult things and paraphernalia that have been finally been seized by the ICKEDMEL police. Law enforcement agencies have faced scrutiny for both the handling of the investigation and McFadden's botched trial on charges of soliciting and CP. Yeah, truly a house of horrors. So it doesn't seem like these acts happened in this house, but I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned. Now we've got a note with a list with different names on it. So did they say names and ages? Yeah, names and ages. So yeah, I'm wondering, is this going to be victims, or is there a possibility of there being names of other disgusting individuals? So he was on the offenders registry and was convicted. We were talking about this a little bit ago for attacking that 16-year-old back in 2003. And of course, we were talking, he got off with good behavior. So, yeah. But then there was this. How does this fall into the good behavior part of this? Caught exchanging lewd pictures with a teen while in jail. Hit with fresh charges in 2017, but then 2020 an early release? What the hell? Really? After his release in October 2020, he was arrested the next month and then released on $25,000 bond pending trial, which was repeatedly delayed. So it literally took him 1 month to start attacking people, and he's just been kind of hanging out in the meantime, waiting for something to happen. This was finally going to happen the day after he did this horrific act. So it was Christy Strong and cellmate James Fleming that told the Independent last week that they separately contacted several law enforcement agencies in a fruitless attempt to stop his release and warn authorities that there was danger to the community. Why do these places continuously not pay attention as to what's going on? Listen to people, you know, not everyone's lying. You listen to some people and save some more people. Not paying attention to this stuff, literally, it puts everybody in danger. Do their due diligence, even if they think that it's or only a rough possibility of something. Check it out. You could be saving a life or 6. So, a spokesperson with the Henrietta Police Department said that McFadden's address was located in an unincorporated part of Okmulgee County, where his registration was up to date, and deferred to Okmulgee Police Department, which did not answer the Independent's request for comment. I can't imagine why. So these 2 gals were having a sleepover. Brittany Brewer, 15, Ivy Webster, 14. Wow. Due to his home address, Henrietta Police Department would have no records kept of his registration. What? Okay. According to KFOR reporter Aaron Christie, several departments in District 25 task force were initially put in charge of the investigation. Miss Christie said that she was deferred by the OSBI and by Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office after Sheriff Eddie Rice declined to clarify the confusion surrounding which agency had leadership of the case. Good God. Ultimately, someone needs to say, we'll go through this or that. So no wonder there's so many problems going on. There's a whole bunch of chiefs. And if you have people outside your jurisdiction, it does not work well. Former Tulsa Police Department homicide detective Dave Walker, you got to be in charge of everything or you're not in charge of anything. Well said. So, of course, you know, everyone was surprised when this happened, when they found out that he had been released early. I can imagine there's going to be a court case or 2 over this, especially while it only being, what did they just say, 1 month, and he was up to this again? He served 17 years, and this was one of the first things he did. Now, if that doesn't tell you there's a dangerous man in town, I don't know what does. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, up on the gallows. Good Lord. I just can't get over the things that law enforcement just goes, no biggie. Yeah, nothing here. So this next one here is, again, this is disturbing to me. Cops left behind. How do I put this? You guys can see that. Kids' clothes and bones on Oklahoma SEX offender Jesse McFadden's property. So not only did they find soiled kids' clothing, they found bones. So what the hell has been going on out there? And you can't tell me that with this stuff happening and all of that paraphernalia, that he was the only adult in the house that knew.
7 bodies in Oklahoma. Authorities found the bodies while searching for 2 missing teenage girls, Ivy Webster and Brittany Brewer. Authorities went looking for those teens at the home of a man named Jesse McFadden. Ivy Webster's dad saying his daughter and her friend Brittany were 2 of the 7 people shot to death. He says the girls were spending the night at McFadden's. Now, the girls were friends with McFadden's stepchildren, and apparently they've hung out for years. But what Ivy's dad did not know until now is that McFadden is a convicted sex offender.
If he was locked up for the 28 years like he was supposed to, he would never have done this. The people that released him need to be held accountable.
All right, so what we know right now is that McFadden's body was also found on the property hours after he missed a court appearance Monday on charges including child pornography. McFadden's wife and her 3 children are believed to be among the dead as well.
Yeah. And again, they're saying that this is not gospel, this is just what I've heard, that she was more than likely involved. That is enough to make you want to vomit. So it says police who investigated the Oklahoma property where an offender gunned down his wife and 5 teens before unaliving himself last week failed to find soiled clothing, bones, and other horrifying things at the scene, one grieving relative said this week. The gruesome finding littered the Henrietta property after convicted R-word Jesse McFadden, 39, unalived his wife Holly Guess, 35, her 3 children, and 2 teenage friends before turning the gun on himself. Like I said, he should have just made that the first bullet. Nothing can prepare anyone for what we had to find, a tearful Wyatt said. These people have found the most horrifying things ever, and it's an association with their children. How can that be any worse? Wyatt said she and other traumatized relatives came across the soiled children's clothes, a mysterious ledger, binders of disturbing pictures, and other objects the police missed during their own search. We found bones. We found other things. The other family members came. The police came. We found a lot of horrifying things, she said. Wyatt also said she found Velcro restraints in the house, but a police officer told her to throw it away because the house was no longer an active crime scene. Fire that person. Footage from inside of McFadden's home shows the restraints attached to the wall behind what looks like a mattress on the floor. And that would be this here. You can't tell me that's hidden from the mother. What was going on in this? Oh my God. So lots of water. I don't know which one they're talking about when they say that they're excavating it. I don't see equipment. And it does sound like they were all found kind of in the trees. Look at that. The clothes, she explained, were put into garbage bags for the investigators. I'm not a crime scene investigator. I am not a police officer. I should not have had to see those things. I'm not sleeping and I'm not eating. Police believe that McFadden, who was set to be tried last week for soliciting CP, killed guests, her children, and the 2 other teens who were visiting with multiple shots. Oh my God. And then the sick shit staged an elaborate crime scene. Yeah. You pathetic piece of shit. So this is the family. Like, are you kidding me? And I mean, they were finding all sorts of stuff. So it says they were discovered together, the kids and the mom. The remains of Guess's daughter Riley, 17, her friends Brittany, 16, and Ivy, 14, were found about a quarter mile away. There are questions that will never get answered because the only people that know are no longer here. Lynn Wyatt. Can you imagine? 2017. Okay, this is what we were just talking about, him getting off for his good behavior. So check these out. These phones were all just lying around. Some of them were tucked up into a shelf. They were just, yeah. So it sounds like Guess's mother, Janet Mayo, said last week that he had actually lied to her daughter about his past. You know what? I don't know. I'll have to check out that app again. I mean, get in there, and if you're getting into a relationship, check that individual out, because look at the shit people are capable of. He was standoffish, generally very quiet, but he kept my daughter and the kids basically under lock and key. Go figure. What a surprise that one is. He had to know where they were at all times, which sent up red flags. Oh my God. Oh, hey, good night, James. Nice seeing you very quickly. I was seeing the next one a little bit earlier. And pandas. Yes, pandas. So I'm going to finish off, and this is just going to be a little bit of information from Brian Enton. And then I'll say goodnight for the evening and get back at this tomorrow morning. So let's see what Brian Enton has to say.
I'm calling him.
Smokey.
Are you done looking?
No.
No, I'm not done looking, but that's evidence.
Okay.
He used our daughter's cell phone.
And whatever's behind that.
Yep. Okay.
Oh my God. Okay.
Tiffany's bad print is the cow print.
And the cow slippers over here.
I'm distressed that the families had to experience that horror and then had to encourage the police to please come back, investigate, and actually take this evidence. But even more so, I think I am concerned about potential other victims that may have been raped or murdered in that home. And it doesn't seem like that is an issue.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. And my first thought was like these poor parents with everything they've gone through, losing their daughter, now like touring the crime scene, this untouched crime scene where these hellish activities clearly happen. So, I mean, my heart just goes out to them. I can't imagine what they're going through. But what you mentioned, I mean, there's two other things that stand out to me. Number one, could there be other victims? Could there be child pornography victims on those computers? Why wouldn't investigators take the computers and go through them? There could be other victims out there. Why would they just leave the computers there? And then number two, this sick pedophile, twisted pervert, how do we know he didn't have other men over to this sex den? I mean, clearly they had the shackles. This is a place that was set up and had been there for a while, it appears. How do we know there aren't other men involved in other things that happened there in the past? And why wouldn't police want to go through that entire house from top to bottom, fingerprints, looking for everything? I mean, yes, he might be dead, but could there be other people out there that did awful, awful things in that house?
And this is the thing. How do they know? They don't. That is the thing. They don't. Hopefully they'll take the time to go through all of the electronics, I don't know. If there's been other things happening in that house, they've just opened up they've destroyed it. They've destroyed that crime scene. I don't know, guys. I don't know what to think. When you see law enforcement that is this inept, it's... I agree, Bruja. They probably won't. They probably won't know. When the family is having to go in and see the stuff that they were seeing to try and get these lame-ass cops to get up and do their jobs. Yeah. Yeah. No, just heartbreaking. That is heartbreaking. I do hope they take the time to go through all that information, because if there's more sick people like that out there in that area, they need to arrest them and get them away from the rest of society and keep us safe. So, guys, that is what I have on that tonight. So there is more I'm going to probably do tomorrow on a couple of different cases, so watch out for that. And as always, thanks for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.